आगे से बैठ जाए.
We feel privileged to have the opportunity on this auspicious day of our 34th anniversary and Pujya Swamiji's 90th Aradhana birthday celebrations to honor our respected teachers for their illuminating teachings and compassionate guidance over the years. We honor Swami Vidadatmananda ji, Swami TV, Swami Pratyak Bodhananda ji, Swami Muktatmananda ji, Swamini Shri Vidyananda ji, Swamini Agamananda ji, Swami Jnanananda ji, Brahmachari Surya Narayana Chaitanya, and Swami Ramananda ji. We would also like to honor Swamini Swatma Vidyananda ji, Swamini Parapragnanananda ji, Swami Advayatmananda ji, and Swamini Brahma Prakashananda ji. We are grateful for their time, effort, and guidance. We would additionally like to honor Mr. and Mrs. Piyush and Avantika Shah for their enduring and timely support of the Gurukulam. Without them, we surely would not be here today. We thank you both immensely for your continued love and generosity. And finally, we thank our esteemed board members for their leadership and contributions. We take this moment to fondly remember two of our board members, Mr. G.S. Raman and Anand Gupta ji, who sadly passed away this year. They both worked tirelessly to support our ashram's progress, and we appreciated and loved them dearly. We have some new books by Pujya Swamiji, Swami Vidadatmananda ji, and Swami TV that will be released today, and I'm excited to share a short description of each of them with you. Before that, I would like to release this year's anniversary souvenir, made beautifully by Swamini Agamananda ji and her team. Sri Dakshinamurti Stotram in praise of the teacher of teachers by Swami Dayananda Saraswati. This book is based on 17 classes on the Dakshinamurti Stotram taught by Pujya Swamiji in 1999 at our Anakati ashram in Tamil Nadu. Whatever the Prasthanatraya discusses, all of that is presented briefly through a set of verses which are in the form of praise and namaskara to Ishvara. So, it becomes a stotra. Swami Shankarananda Saraswati, with the help of Srimati Sheela Balaji, Sri V. Ramanathan, Brahmacharini Nandana Chaitanya, and the AVR and PT team have transcribed and edited Pujya Swamiji's classes. Management Wisdom from the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Vidadatmananda ji. This book is a compilation of talks delivered by Swami Vidadatmananda ji at a management seminar in Mumbai. Here, Swamiji addresses an audience of management students and graduates to help them understand the values taught in the Bhagavad Gita. He also provides valuable insights on how they may apply these values in their workplaces, professional interactions, and personal relationships. Vedanta Sara by Swami Vidadatmananda ji. This book contains Swami Vidadatmananda ji's explanation of a text called Vedanta Sara by an author named Sadananda Yogendra Saraswati. This text consists of a staggering 227 verses and encapsulates the essence of all the important concepts and principles of Vedanta. Swamiji's treatment of each of these verses offers a broad understanding of the elaborate subject matter and will help you gain clarity on the many facets of Advaita Vedanta. Gopina Panchakam by Swami TV. Gopina Panchakam is a small yet profound prakarana text of Sri Shankara Bhagavatpada. Swami TV has written a lucid commentary in English on it in a book by the same title. Om Namaste. Over the last 30 years, I have had the fortune of being camp counselor, Vedic heritage teacher, Sanskrit teacher here at AVG Sailorsburg. Today, I would like to talk about some of my reflections as a student in Sailorsburg and Ainakati studying under Pujya Swamiji. I will weave into these reflections some of my history with Pujya Swamiji and the Arsha Vidya Gurukulam. Pujya Swamiji's approach to Advaita Vedanta, specifically his unfoldment of Ishvara, the Jagat as Mithya, and his unique ability to lead me to the vision of my true nature as limitless non-dual consciousness through his masterful translations of the words of the Shastra, have helped me to grow in my mumukshutvam, desire for moksha or freedom from suffering, and jignyasa, desire for liberating self-knowledge. Sometime in the late 1980s, I think it was the summer of 1988, when I was 16 years old, my father, Mr. Bhagubai Taylor, suggested that instead of our yearly trip to India during the summer months, we should go as a family to a family camp in the Poconos. I have to say that I resisted at first, having known little of Swamis and Gurus. As a family, we had previously been to the Hare Krishna ashram in West Virginia, and I did not feel at home there. In contrast, within a few days into the family camp here at AVG Sailorsburg, I was having the best time of my life, participating in the children's program, for example, arts and crafts with Lance Daniels and drama with Savitri Auntie, and enjoying Arati in the temple and Iyengar yoga classes in the old dining hall. Most importantly, I had an epiphany in Swamiji's adult classes on Kathopanishad in the Kutiya, known now as Dayalayam. I vividly remember where I was sitting when Swamiji told the small group of students attentively listening to his words that, quote, "You are whole, complete, you lack nothing," end quote. I remember his words deeply resonating with me. Swamiji said, "There's nothing to be done, nothing to be accomplished. The seeker is the sought. You are what you are looking for in every time-bound experience." For the first time in my life, at that moment, I felt at home in my body and mind, despite my insecurities, centered on the limitations of both mind and body. To put it mildly, Swamiji opened my eyes to the possibility of liking myself. Because, as Swamiji put it, the self is intrinsically likable, being that it is non-dual. I also remember that Swamiji was a masterful storyteller. He was hilarious, witty, compassionate, relating to any audience by his sophisticated understanding of contemporary culture and his adept use of modern examples. During high school, I would attend a family camp with my family every summer, often ending them in tears because I did not want to leave Swamiji. In my college years, I would drive from State College, Pennsylvania, every weekend to attend classes with Pujya Swamiji, Swami Vidadatmanandaji, and Swami Pratyak Bodhanandaji. Majoring in comparative literature and French literature, I desperately tried to find Vedanta's equivalent in the literary world. I could not. I realized that there was clearly nothing like Advaita Vedanta. After my first year at Penn State, Pujya Swamiji announced a 6-month course in his Anakati ashram, and with the blessing of my parents, I took a leave of absence from my undergraduate program and flew to Coimbatore. I particularly loved the morning Abhishekam to Lord Dakshinamurti, during which time I learned how to chant Sri Rudram from Shuddhatmaji and others. Having been raised since birth in a religious environment by my maternal grandmother, Srimati Saraswati Bhagat, who showed me by example the mental peace and joy that daily puja can bestow, I was already inclined to worship. Being in the presence of Lord Dakshinamurti and relating to Ishvara helped me tremendously in terms of my personal growth. At the same time, being immersed in Vedanta as a resident student, I was slowly learning how to embrace Ishvara as non-separate from the world that included myself. Though Pujya Swamiji was committed to unfolding Brahma Vidya, he spent considerable time speaking on the importance of karma yoga, including bhakti and the values outlined in the Bhagavad Gita. In short, there was absolutely no shortcut to moksha or liberation from suffering. I learned that there was no bypassing adhikaritvam or preparedness for self-knowledge in terms of emotional maturity centered on my relationship with Ishvara. And I learned the necessity of purushartha vichara, an honest inquiry into the common pursuits in life centered on viveka, discrimination between what is ontologically real and unreal, and vairagya, dispassion towards fruitless yet enticing pursuits. Pujya Swamiji's approach to Advaita Vedanta was not to dismiss the world as asat or unreal, an approach which I strongly believe may lead to spiritual bypass of one's own unconscious trauma as well as one's conscious fluctuating emotions, ultimately ending in psychological disassociation. In keeping with the Shastra and Shankara's Bhashyam, Swamiji explained the Sat Asat Anirvachaniyam status of the world. The world is neither unreal nor real. The world straddles between Sat and Asat, or reality and unreality, being that it is dependent upon Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. Instead of denying the dependent reality of the world, Swamiji helped me to see that the world is Ishvara, and that I could transform my emotional pain and limited sense of self by cultivating a relationship with Ishvara in my daily life, through puja, meditation, and vichara, leading to mumukshutvam, jignasa, and finally nishtha, or abidance in self-knowledge. In short, karma yoga was the means to moksha, because it would prepare me for not simply a mere intellectual understanding that my true nature is limitless non-dual consciousness that is Brahman. Rather, karma yoga would prepare me to assimilate this fact of aham brahmasmi and bestow upon me the freedom I have been seeking in this and perhaps many past incarnations. So this was my first lesson while in Anakati, the significance of Purushartha Vichara, and the indispensability of understanding and appreciating Ishvara and Mithya in my daily life. Upon graduation in Anakati, I finished my BA in Comparative Literature and completed 2 master's degrees at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. The first was in Sanskrit poetics, and the second was in the history of Advaita Vedanta and the colonial and post-colonial interpretations, often misrepresentations of Advaita Vedanta, both by Western missionaries and Indologists, and by Indian sadhus such as Vivekananda, Aurobindo, and Arya Samaj's Swami Dayananda Saraswati, to name a few. Having studied traditionally in a 3-year course, I could see how both Western and indigenous representations and translations of the Prasthana Traya missed the mark in many ways. I owe this clarity to Pujya Swamiji, who beautifully translated Sanskrit terms into English without relying on colonial and post-colonial interpretations that are often embedded in Judeo-Christian theology and/or the paradigm and language of modern science. Pujya Swamiji would spend hours in classes dismantling skewed and misleading misinterpretations that could lead to fundamental misunderstandings of the Shastra and oneself. For example, sin for the word papam or bliss for the word ananda, to name just a few. Swamiji was the human incarnation of Shabda Paramanam, the Shastra as the means of knowledge. He could unfold the teaching as a mirror in which I could see myself as Purna or whole without putting me on a spiritual trip. I feel confident in my understanding of Advaita Vedanta because Swamiji very carefully chose his words. Not only was Pujya Swamiji my guru, he was my confidant, guide, mentor, and refuge. I could and would tell Swamiji everything, and not once did he label or judge me. He listened with compassion, offered his perspective and guidance with compassion, and was always available for me and my family. I miss him dearly every day, and I feel immensely blessed to have had the opportunity and ability to be in Swamiji's presence, studying and learning from his Shrotriyatvam, expertise in the Shastra, Brahmanishta, abidance in Brahman, and his Daya, compassion. Truly, our founder, father, and guru is the embodiment of Brahma Jnanam, knowledge of Brahman, and an incarnation of Lord Shiva as Dakshinamurti, the teacher of liberating self-knowledge. On this auspicious celebration of Pujya Swamiji's 90th birthday, I want to say thank you, Swamiji, for devoting your life to leading me and others from ignorance to self-knowledge. Om Tat Sat. Thank you. Thank you. We will now have a series of speakers to commemorate what would have been Pujya Swamiji's 90th Aradhana birthday on August 15th, 2020. Okay. I invite Swami Jnananandaji to the stage.
Thank you, Avni. Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Swamiji showed us what is Ishvara. Sarvajnaha, Sarvashaktiman, Sarvvit. If he is Sarvashaktiman, Sarvajnaha, what we ask from Ishvara, job, little money, little health, is nothing for Ishvara. The Lord can just tweak a little bit of these 5 elements and give you whatever you want. He can make the blind seeing 20/20. He can make the mute speak. He can make the lame cross the mountains. for the Lord, for Ishvara, this is nothing. How about us? We hardly have any power. Always complained about health, back pain, always worried about money, security, children, relatives. This is our power. We don't have any much power, not much fame. So this is the difference between Ishvara and us. Then we hear, living in the culture in India, that we see sadhus in the, as we grow up, that they have nothing, but they are happy. Then we wonder, well, let me go to meet a sadhu, listen to a sadhu, see if I can resolve some of my issues. So I come to meet Swamiji, to sit in front of his classes. And what Swamiji, Pujya Swamiji, what does he do? He fearlessly, courageously, without shyness, he declares. What does he declare? That Ishvara who is Sarvajnaha, that Ishvara who is Sarvashaktiman, that Ishvara who is all Shri, all wealth, all fame, that Ishvara is you. Sa ekaha, he is one alone. There is no second thing. You go into all the Upanishads, all the Puranas, whole Bhagavad Gita. Sa ekaha. It's only one conscious being. That is you. This was Pujya Swamiji. Then if we are Ishvara, then why is the problem? Why don't I feel? Why do I still feel very limited, without any power? There is such thing, a cover, which is cover of avidya, ignorance. It won't let you see yourself. The avidya has to be removed to discover ourselves. Now, how do we remove that avidya? What method is there? There is a very well organized methodology given by Lord Dakshinamurti to rishis. It's called Sampradaya. And the one who has that Sampradaya is passed down from rishis to teachers. In the middle, Adi Shankaracharya and to our Pujya Swamiji. The one who has that methodology is called Sampradaya with. And what does the Sampradaya do? It is because of this Sampradaya the Pujya Swamiji could declare that Ishvara is you. How does the Sampradaya work? How does it work? How does the teaching work? How does the avidya goes away? As Avni was saying, is Shabda Pramana. But how does Shabda Pramana work? The Shabdas is from the dictionary. The dictionary words only tell you what is the object in the world or inference based on your sense organs. How does Sampradaya work? How does it work? The words you know are only in the dictionary explaining about the objects. Ishvara is not an object. And if you use other word which you don't know the meaning, you can get no knowledge. That's where the Sampradaya comes in. The Sampradaya with has a key to unlock the meanings of the words of the scriptures. They have the key. That's why the teacher is given so importance. By reading yourself, you cannot unlock the meaning of the words. The tradition is coming from rishis and has been well organized from teacher to student. The words which you know, Satchit Ananda, what do you get out of it? Satchit Ananda. What do you know? Do you see a limitless Sat? Do you see limitless awareness? But these are the only words we know. So the Sampradaya with removes the limitations which they have learned from their teacher by Bhagatyaga Lakshana. Removing the limitations, the meaning takes place. You don't do anything. You present yourself in front of the teacher. And Pujya Swamiji, that's why he could declare, all the Upanishads can declare, Sa Ekaha, Saha Ekaha. That reality, that Ishvara alone is. There's no second thing. And where do you fall? That's why that one is you alone. So to understand this teaching, you require two things. Sampradaya with, who knows the Shastra, who knows the tradition. Second, you require Bhagavan's grace. Without Ishvara, you won't understand. Today, my salutation to Pujya Swamiji. Namo namaste astu sahasra kritva punascha bhuyo namo namaste. 1,000 repeated salutation to you, Pujya Swamiji. O Lord, if you could not see yourself Ishvara, you could not have made us see Ishvara. Pujya Swamiji was Ishvara. Namo namaste astu sahasra kitvaha punascha bhuyo namo namaste. My salutations to Ishvara, who is present as these forms, all of you. Om Tassat.
Thank you, Swamiji Jnanananda. I now invite Mr. Rakesh Sharma to the stage.
Good morning, everybody. Hari Om Swamiji. So I met Swamiji first time when I was a student in 1979. We were organizing Swami Chinmayananda's Gita Gyan Yagyan Karma Yoga, 3rd chapter, 10-day. And Swamiji came there at that time. Then I met him in 1985 at Ved Mandir when he did the weekend class. After that, 86, he did the weekend class at Bloomsburg University. And that is when, soon after that, we came to the Gurukulam and Swamiji had the first class in the dining hall next to the temple. In those days, we didn't have temple, so many of the weekend students wanted to have a temple. And Swamiji said, temple should be where people are. Here there is nobody. So he suggested to create a temple where people are. So Dr. S.S. Iyer, he was the first donor for Bridgewater Temple. He created so the Bridgewater Temple was created in Chalet in one of the classes, one of the weekend classes. So that was a very interesting episode. So then Swamiji was starting the class in November, and he said, find out a muhurt. I said, Swamiji, I don't know how to create a muhurt. He says, make charts for November 8th. It was a Saturday and I made, he says, only morning there are only 2 charts. So we made 2 charts and he picked one of them. So 10:31 in the morning on November 8th, the first class Swamiji started. And then later on he said, why don't you teach? I said, I don't know much about astrology. He says, I will be there. Of course, it was a disaster, but Swamiji was there to back me up. That was in 89. But then he wrote to me on August 24th, 1989 to start classes, bring people who know astrology. So then we brought in Dr. David Frawley, then Robert Soboda, then so many, then Ayurveda we started, so many Ayurveda classes. Mahadevan, Dr. Mahadevan came from Kanyakumari, then Robert Soboda and all those people. And the astrology classes we started first full-time 5-day in 95 when Swamiji was also present. And then this is our 26th year actually. Today the classes are going on Zoom. So we are doing it 5 weekends. So another very interesting thing is about Swami Aghehanand Bharti. His name was Leopard Fischer. He was an Austrian national but became a Hindu and was teaching at Syracuse University. And he also taught at BHU, he taught at Delhi University, but he had a doubt about one of the verse from this Sanskrit grammar by Panini. And nobody was able to, so somebody told him about one of his students that Swami Dayananda may be able to tell you what it is. He says, I have gone to India, I have never heard anybody who could do it. I think people, they have lost this art of knowing Sanskrit. So he came here, it was in Chalet, and Swamiji quietly listened to him, went to the blackboard and deciphered every stanza in such a way that Swamiji, Aghehanand Bharti was older to Swamiji, but he prostrated in front of Swamiji and it was he says, you have resolved my issues for 40 years I have been thinking about it, that whether I will meet somebody who can explain to me this. But Swamiji knew Panini grammar like no other person. It was a very, very inspiring thing. And also another big thing which happened to Swamiji was meeting Piyush Bhai. Piyush Bhai was there whenever there is a crisis. He was there and he came up with very interesting ideas, like pay for a day. When we were in big trouble in 90s, he came up with this idea of pay for a day. Nobody believed that it will work, but it worked like anything. And another very interesting thing is about this hall. In the last board meeting, Swamiji says, if you say no, we will not do it. Piyush Bhai said, no, we'll do it. He says, how? He says, we'll ask people to donate $25,000. He says, nobody will give it. Everybody thought nobody will give it. But then he asked the board members, and few of them ready for that, and rest is the history. Not only 100, but I think 130 people donated the money, and he is a big blessing for ashram, and I think we should all salute to him for his leadership in making this ashram a very successful one. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you, Mr. Rakesh Sharma ji. I now invite Dr. Bala to the stage, to the podium. Dr. Bala is not here. Okay. So I now invite Brahmachari Surya Narayana to the podium.
Hari Om, my pranams to Swamiji, Swami Tattvadanji, Swami Pratik Badanji, Swami Muktatmanji. Hari Om to Piyush Bhai and Avantika Bevan. Hari Om. It is the Advaita Bhava of Swamijis, like Swami Tattvadanji, Pratik Badanji and Muktatmanji. I am here talking, and it is their Advaita Bhava that I am standing along with them here. And I was thinking that I just wanted to recollect when Pujya Swamiji was here in the August month of 2015 at the temple. Many of you some of you who were there might remember that he kept saying, when he was in this stretcher kind of a wheel, and he was in the temple, and he was watching all of us with so much emotion in the face, and Swamiji would keep saying that, Pujya Swamiji would keep saying, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuho. Several times he said, right? I was thinking maybe Swamiji usually comes up with several things, but maybe he is so sick that he could only repeat that several times. And then coincidentally you'll see that if you look at the Swamiji's commentary on the Gita Bhashyam, on the Gita text, you'll see that in the 1980s, Swamiji, if you take that shloka, verse 27, I think in the second chapter, you'll see that for the shloka Jata Sihi Dhruva Mrityoho, this is what Swamiji wrote. I just want to read his own words. He wrote, Pujya Swamiji wrote, I need to keep it this long. See. So Swamiji said 50, 60 or 85 years of life is nothing. By the time we are 85, again, this is in 1980, 35 years before 2015 he wrote this, most of our cells are already gone. And rest are old and worn out. They are unable to register anything new, and even when they had registered, what they had registered previously does not come out. Regardless of what recall button is pushed, nothing comes up. The floppy disk is all worn out. It was too flimsy to last even this long. What are a few more years? So this is when Swamiji said for the sloka in the 1980s that 85 is good enough. And that is how, if you look at Swamiji, how long he was with us physically, it was 85 years and 0 months actually, and few days actually. So that is what I was thinking. People like Swamiji, how much apurvata they have, and how much vision they have given to all of us, and how much accommodation, which is the topic here, and I'm eagerly waiting along with all of you to listen. I asked Pujya Swamiji at the end of my course, Swamiji, you are like you, there are so many capable teachers, your parampara is so well learned, and I wish many of them teach 3 years course like you're doing, Swamiji, so many of them can benefit. And Swamiji would say, was thinking, and he didn't say anything, but then I was expecting some Swamiji to say something, right? So then Swamiji came up and told, maybe they have to deal with so much unconscious, because once they all settle for a year or so, then so much unconscious comes out, and maybe they have to deal with all that. Maybe that's why they are just thinking about starting courses. Otherwise, they're all very capable, you're right. He said that. So, then I understood at the age of 85, he was doing my course, and how much accommodative Swamiji was there, and it was all a very great experience with Swamiji, learning about accommodating. And myself, I always say that, we can always give the benefit of doubt to Swamiji about his compassion, about his accommodation, even if we don't understand. And it is all something we will anyway discover eventually. With these few words, I thank you, Swamijis, again. Hari Om, Shri Guru Bhyo Namah.
Thank you, Surya Narayana ji. I will now read a few messages from board members who could not be here today. Mr. Vijay and Pami Kapoor, Dr. Haren and Pratima Joshi, and my father, Mr. Bhagubai Taylor. First from Vijay and Pami Kapoor. Swamiji's trust in me guided my entire life. From naming me as the first secretary of Arsha Vidya Peetham, to encouraging me to continue to be a householder teacher, to supporting the Salisbury ashram, and not bothering about starting a physical ashram of my own in the West Coast. I could not have imagined how fulfilled my life would become. And for that, there is only one person responsible, Pujya Swami Dayananda Saraswati, the very personification of Ishvara. My pranams to you, Swamiji. Hari Om. Now from Dr. Haren and Pratima Joshi. After Swamiji's heart problem, he was admitted in New York for cardiac catheterization. Pratima and I went to see him the next day. I asked Swamiji, how are you feeling? He said, Haren, you are a vascular surgeon. Let me show you my angiogram. He showed me the angiogram where the arteries were open. He said, see, now Ganga is flowing south. And now, lastly, from my father, Mr. Bhagubai Taylor. I first listened to Pujya Swamiji at Princeton University in 1988. Soon thereafter, the members of my Rotary Club fell in love with Pujya Swamiji after he gave a talk in my Rotary Club. Having come there along with Mr. TTN, Mr. late TTN, husband of late Padma Amma, both trustees of the Anekati Ashram and Manjakudi School. With the grace of Pujya Swamiji, I became board member and attended many camps and retreats in Salisbury. Swamiji's guidance and teaching have helped me to overcome many personal and professional challenges. On this occasion of Pujya Swamiji's 90th birthday celebration, I convey my heartfelt pranams to Pujya Swamiji and all other Swamijis at the ashram. And now we will begin the addresses by our resident Swamijis. Swami Pratyakbodhananda Saraswati Ji, a long-time disciple of Pujya Swamiji and Vice President of AVG, along with one of our Acharya teachers, teaches Vedanta, Ramayana, and Bhagavatam in 3 languages, English, Gujarati, and Hindi in Surat, Gujarat, and here in Salisbury. He also engages in community outreach. Swamiji is loved for his sense of humor and affable personality. I now request Swami Pratyakbodhananda Ji to give his address.